fantasy swords are way too complicated, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Noah Page. I am an author and an artist. My book of Stone and Steel is out now. It's my debut novel, and it's got all of my artwork in it. This is the paperback, and this is the hardcover. The hardcover has a drawing that I did. All of my drawings are done in Big Pen, and I've been an artist much longer than I've been a writer. And I wanted to talk a little bit about specifically this hyper niche that I'm super, super passionate about, and that is fantasy swords. I think that with like most epic fantasy and even non-epic fantasy these days, fantasy swords are so ornate and complex, and I think that it's a really bad thing. And I want to talk about this trend without attacking any individuals or any artists specifically, because that's not really what I want this channel to be about. I just want this to be a conversation about the things that I like and why I think some of these ornate designs and really, really complex features within swords on like the covers of books and even within the novels themselves can be a dangerous game and subjectively not a great choice. So this is the sword to my protagonist, Fenric. He carries a great sword, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So this is how, as you can see, this is the cover of my novel, like the original drawing for the cover of my novel. You can see it sitting on his back, kind of in that half-open scabbard that facilitates the Akalas stone that sets the blade. This might make a little bit more sense if you've read my novels, but if you haven't, I can still get around it. So the black represented, the black represented in this piece is all Akalas stone, which is what the swords that my protagonists, the shepherds, use are made of. Akalas Stone and Steel, the name of my first book of Stone and Steel. And when I designed this sword, I designed it after I had written Fenric. It went through several iterations. I should have had this out. I can find you one of those iterations right now. This was a cover that I did years ago of kind of the same sword. That was just like a mock cover piece that I did truly like 2 or 3 years ago. Of like Fenric's sword. And I still don't hate this design. I like this design a lot more. And the reason for that is because when I am designing weapons for my world, or if I'm designing anything for my world, one of the things that, at least for me as a consumer and as a writer, one of the first things that will break the rule of immersion is just a blatant lack of functionality. I think that everything in a world really needs to be functional and feel organic, not only to the world itself, but to just like maybe basic physics. Like if I see a sword on even the cover of a novel and it doesn't look like I personally, me as an individual, could pick this thing up and swing it, it's kind of a problem for me. And no matter how pretty the sword is, no matter how like intense or complicated the design, if it doesn't look like I can use it, for me, it's a really big turnoff. And I understand that this is a completely subjective take, but I've seen it growing a lot over the course of like the last 10, 15 years, where like we have these crazy, crazy swords that just don't really work. And most of the time you can kind of see it like a really, really crowded guard, or maybe like far too short of a handle. Like there's just so many aspects to like swordsmanship that would break immersion, and I'm not going to go over them all right now. But when I was designing my protagonist sword, Fenric, I wanted it to be not only indicative of his fighting style, but indicative of his character, and I wanted to fit within the world and still look aesthetically appealing. I think that the swords seen in Tolkien's world, not to sound generic, but come on, I think that they look so good because of how functional they all were. And when I drew this up and landed on this final iteration, that's what I really, really wanted. And like, you know, it's got that kind of, you know, the as far as the total length of the weapon, the blade doesn't actually start until you truly get almost halfway in between, you know, the tip of the pommel and the tip of the blade. And this would facilitate a more practiced hand to really use it as a greatsword or fight with Morschlag if they wanted to at a consistent basis. Like, it'd be really easy to fight in Morschlag with this weapon. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with swordplay, it would be grabbing this, like the forepart of this stone with one of your hands and grabbing the hilt with another and using it to get in close to your opponent, because, you know, sometimes with a greatsword that becomes a great disadvantage for you. And with the use of like firearms in my novels, like the flintlocks, we go through a lot of evolutions of combat, and I'm not going to go into all of them right now, but I think that it's really, really important as artists to cater to cultivating the immersion that writers intended for their novel. And sometimes there can be kind of a disconnect between artists and authors, because most of the time they're not the same people. Most of the time the guy who's doing the cover for a novel or the internal work for a piece it's not the author, it's just an artist that they've commissioned, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, of course. Like, I happen to do both. Like, all of the pieces in my work are mine, and I personally believe that that's really special, because what you're seeing in my novel is absolutely how I envisioned it in my head. I have that unique ability, but I just think that, yeah, that's one of the little rants I wanted to go on right now about how, like, I don't know, I just feel like when we get a little too complex with our designs, specifically within our weaponry in fantasy worlds, we really do start to take away from the immersion of our reader. At least, I guess that's a super subjective take, because maybe I didn't have this conversation with anybody else. A lot of the time I make these videos and then, like, or I'll be thinking about making a video and I'll talk to a bunch of buddies at work and then I'll make a video. I didn't talk to anyone about this. This is just something that I was thinking about and decided to turn on my camera. So now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this is literally just something that bothers me. Let me know, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I guess a quick insight into the artistic direction that I like to take in the context of my worlds. I feel like these little smaller videos are not of a whole lot of significance, but I do enjoy making them. These are kind of fun. If you want to see my work and like my swords and stuff, buy my book of Stone and Steel. You'll see all of my artwork, from swords to people to places. It's all done with a ballpoint pen. For those of you who've been around the channel long enough to know, this is what I do. I'm an artist and I'm an author. My books are great. My ebook's free. Download my ebook for free. Link in the description. Go team.